Hey everybody, welcome back. This is a lab walkthrough video. Now this is probably the first of many that you'll be watching this year. The whole point of these lab walkthrough videos is to go through the entirety of the lab, just so you know what to expect when you come into the lab room. It also helps if you are absent and miss the lab. Now you have all the information that you need to complete it. Now all of our labs will start with some useful background information. Again, make sure that you are reading it because there are key points there. Now, something to point out that is very important is that hot plates are being used in this lab, so things will be hot when you walk into the lab. So make sure that you're being very, very careful with when you are at your station, because even though things don't look hot, they may be. So you have your procedure, and you can check off easily everything that you have, everything that you've done so far. Now, there are questions scattered throughout the procedure. Now, depending on how well you and your group manage your time, all of these questions can be answered without doing the lab. So if you want to run through the lab first and then go back and do your questions, it depends how efficiently you will work as a team. There is a time where you're waiting for water to boil and you're just sitting there staring at it. So that is a great opportunity to work on the questions. So at your station, you'll find a few things. A hot plate, a bin with a small and a large beaker, along with a graduated cylinder. We're going to find a container of sand, some salt packets, a stirring rod, a funnel, a wire cooling rack, a jar labeled iron, and a magnet. And you also have some goggles and some heat gloves. So if you are missing anything from your station, please let your teacher know. So first step is to plug in your hot plate, turn it on to medium heat, which looks about that. Just so everything is preheating, and when we're ready for it, it is ready for us. So in the small beaker that looks like this, the 150 ones, we're going to add a scoop of the iron, the sand, and 2 packets of salt. So you'll also have a scoop at your station. So we're going to add just about that much, nothing too much. Some iron, close that up. And 2 packets of our salt. Okay, give that a nice swirl and make your mixture. And so now we're going to separate it. First thing we're going to do is use a magnet to get all the iron off. So just put your magnet in, and then through science, it does its thing. So all of the iron is now on the magnet. Your job is to take all of the iron that is on your magnet and just scrape it back into the jar. Try to get as much of that as you can. So now your magnet is just about clean with all that iron back in there. Okay, top back on, we're good. So now at this point, we just have the sand and the salt. So next, we're going to use the 50 ml graduated cylinder, and we're only going to add about 15 mils of water. So that's halfway between 10 and 20. So let's take a quick field trip to the sink. That's good. We don't want to add too much water because all the water that we add, we're going to have to evaporate off. So the less we use, the easier it will be for us later on. Okay, so now that we have our water, we're going to pour that into our mixture. We can give it a nice swirl to make sure all of the salt gets dissolved. You also have a stirring rod to help stir. So now you got your sand on the bottom, and all of your salt has dissolved into the water. Next step is to send a group mate up to the front of the teacher desk to get a piece of filter paper. So let's take another field trip. So to best help put your filter paper inside the funnel, we're going to fold it in half and fold it in half again, just like that. So then on one of the openings, you can kind of poke your finger in and you have now this cone shape in your filter paper. So this fits in the funnel a lot better. So now what we're going to do is put the funnel inside the larger beaker, the 250 milliliter beaker. So before we pour it, we're going to give our mixture a quick swirl and pour into the funnel. Now if you have some extra sand on the bottom, that is okay. Give it a swirl and kind of just pour quickly to get as much out as possible. If you still have some at the bottom of your cup, of your beaker, no worries, just grab some more water. Again, if you're adding more water, you want to add as little as possible because all of this does need to evaporate off. So give it a good swirl and pour aggressively. If it's not 100% perfect, it is okay. Your experiment still will work. So now we have our funnel collecting all of the sand, and what's coming through is just your salt water. So right now it just looks like clear water, but we'll be able to separate that water from the salt and get that back. So as you can see, it is a slow dripping process. If your funnel is going kind of slow, you can give it a swirl to help speed it up. So we don't have all that much left, just got to be patient. Okay, so it looks like most of the water has gone through. So now we're left with wet filter paper, and all that's on here, all that's on the filter paper now is that sand. Now we can let this dry, but we're just going to take this and throw this out because nobody needs wet sand. So this goes directly into the garbage can. So now we want to separate our salt and our water. So what we're going to do, we're going to throw that on to the hot plate that has been sitting there. And so we're just going to watch this until all the water evaporates off. Now it's important you watch this carefully. When all the water is gone, it will be an empty beaker. We do not want to heat up an empty beaker. It will break. So once all that water is gone, immediately take off the beaker. So as you're waiting, you could take your cooling rack, put that off to the side. You can take a hot glove. There's a left one and a right one, depending on which one works better for you. So getting into position. And now we wait. So as you can see, bubbles are starting to form. So our water is starting to boil. So once it starts to boil, it shouldn't be that much longer for all the water to evaporate. But still we wait. Okay, so it looks like we are approaching the end of evaporating all of the, or vaporizing rather, all of the water. There's not much left, almost there. Again, you may be tempted to stick your face and look inside of the beaker. Please do not do that. That is very dangerous. Again, sometimes these beakers do just crack because they get too hot. Okay, so all of the water is gone. Let's let these bubbles cool down. And so again, you're going to use your hot glove to take your beaker and lift it. And if you look at the bottom, either in there or this way, what we're left with is all of the salt that we started with. So there's no sand, there's no water, this is just the salt that we started with. So now we are done with the lab. So to clean up, what we're going to do is turn off your hot plate. Wherever it is plugged in, just leave the plug right where it was. You can tuck that in there. Not all the plugs work as good as the other ones. And we're just gonna rinse, give everything a quick rinse. Give that a quick rinse. Funnel quickly. Now this beaker will still be hot, so what you're gonna do is take again your hot glove, grab onto it. The water will help cool it down. And I'm gonna rinse out all of that salt. Enough to touch with your hand. Again, just be very careful with that. Graduated cylinder, any empty water, throw that in there. And you can put your beakers back in there, cooling rack in there, everything is all cleaned up and ready for the next group. Now, this is how you find it. This is how you should leave it. Have fun. Okay, so going over cleanup again, that is one of the most important parts. You are not allowed to leave the lab a mess. You must clean up your station and leave it exactly, if not better, than you found it. So we're just going to wrap up with a few summary questions. You can use your notes to answer them, or just using your chemistry knowledge. And then once you're all done, lab goes in your lab folder, and you are good to go. You've successfully completed one of the first hands-on labs you will experience.